A very good afternoon. Welcome to Premier League Live and our first of two live watch-alongs this Sunday afternoon to conclude match day 22 here on LFS of the Premier League. And what a dramatic weekend it has been already in the title race, certainly. And we'll talk about Aston Villa and that whole situation a little later. But for now, it's Wolves against Newcastle is our 2 o'clock kickoff. A Wolves side who are unbeaten in the last 3 league games after going winless in their first 18 of the season, and a Newcastle side who are in a bit more of a difficult spot. Certainly cup competitions have been a test for them in the last week, beaten in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final by Manchester City, the holders, and of course that penalty shootout against Bournemouth in the FA Cup a week ago. So taking a lot of toll on Eddie Howe's Newcastle, but a much more refreshed looking Toon side this afternoon. Also, as I said, Aston Villa taking on Everton is a 4:30 kickoff, and we'll have that from Villa Park a little later on. And Aston Villa side who have the chance to close the gap to league leaders Arsenal after they dropped points yesterday. City lost as well in the lunchtime kickoff, and a lot of dramatic results elsewhere. West Ham winning against Spurs, Sunderland beating Palace, Liverpool being held by Burnley, and Leeds getting a 1-0 victory over Fulham, and a good start at home in the Premier League for, of course, Liam Senior as Chelsea boss a 2-0 victory over Brentford. But let's have a look at the team news for this game, starting with the home side in Wolves. And after their 6-1 FA Cup win against Shrewsbury here last week, there's renewed hope about Wolves. Not as bad as maybe you thought they were, albeit still rock bottom and 15 adrift of safety. Jose Sa starts in goal and he captains the side today. A back five of Chichoa, Mosquera, Santiago Bueno, Krejci and Hugo Bueno, and in midfield João Gomez alongside Andre and Matheus Mane, who's really lit it up, the youngster in midfield for Wolves, and a front two of Arokodare and Hee-chan Hwang. Jorgen Strand-Larsen is on the bench for Wolves after his hat-trick against Shrewsbury last weekend. He's alongside Lopez, Rodrigo Gomez, Arias, Lima, Agbadu, Wolfa, Doherty and Sam Johnston. For Newcastle, they had to make a number of changes for their League Cup game against City during the week, but it looks more familiar to a Newcastle team we know this season. Nick Pope is in goal, a back four of Kieran Trippier, who makes his first league start since November. Malik Chow and Sven Botman are the centre-backs, with Lewis Hall at left-back. Tonali comes back into midfield alongside Guimaraes and Joe Linton, and a front three of Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon and Nick Voltemade, who scored the winner in a 1-0 victory for Newcastle in the reverse fixture between these two this season. On the bench for Newcastle, Ramsdale, Shahar, Murphy, Elanga, Willock, Ramsey, Miley, Visa and Neve. It is Wolves, as I said, an unbeaten run. 4 in all competitions, 3 in the league, but a Newcastle side who want to make up for that League Cup defeat in midweek and get back to winning ways. It is kick-off at Molineux is next. Good afternoon, welcome to Premier League Live for this one. Wolves taking on Newcastle, and if Wolves are able to create the great escape, it would be one of the greatest escapes from relegation ever. Winless after 18 games, almost half the season without a league victory, albeit they still only have one after 21 games, but it's a step in the right direction for Rob Edwards and his team. It only got 2 points after 18 games. They've now got 7, 3 games later. So there is points tallying up for Wolves. They have a tough task in Newcastle, and a Newcastle side that believe they need to respond from the midweek defeat. And the way that they lost in midweek as well will be a disappointment to them. But of course, no better way than to respond. A trip to the league's bottom side, and a team that at the moment believes that they maybe could complete the impossible. I mean, who knows? There's Malik Chow. Wolves, by the way, in their gold shirts, black shorts, and Newcastle in their away strip, I believe that is, of navy blue. Of course, as they give it away cheaply here. Rokodare couldn't hold it up, and it's stolen to Voltemade. Now Barnes trying to roll it through towards Guimaraes in the box, but sheer number of Wolves players in there clearing it away. Newcastle trying to start on the front foot. Here is Tonali back in the side, of course, after he was rested in midweek. A number of these Newcastle players that were rested for that League Cup semi-final were due to the fact that they went all the way to penalties and played 120 minutes against Bournemouth in the weekend just gone. And I think it would have been a lot easier for Eddie Howe if that FA Cup game had gone a little bit smoother than needing to go all the way to penalties. But I mean, a classic FA Cup tie, a 3-3 draw with that last-minute goals, both in normal time and in extra time. It was quite an FA Cup tie at that one. If we look at Wolves' recent results, that 3-0 win over West Ham was certainly the pick of the bunch here at Molineux, which was some result that came to a surprise to everyone. I think at that point, when Wolves and West Ham faced off, it was two teams that were in desperate need of a big result and some sort of positivity around their season. And it was Wolves that just took it by the scruff of the neck that day and destroyed West Ham 3-0. And it could have been even more here on that day. It's Newcastle again trying to go early into the box. It's put behind by Hugo Bueno for a corner. You see it here, nice hold-up play by Anthony Gordon, who's drifted into the centre. It's laid back to Lewis Hall, who tried that early cross and just deflects off Hugo Bueno and behind for the corner, which Lewis Hall will come over and take. I have to say, despite Newcastle's defeat to City in the week, I certainly picked out Lewis Hall as probably one of their best players. An incredible performance. That's a lovely whip ball deep, and it's gone all the way through. Dropped into a mix of players and came out for a goal kick. Excuse me. Rob Edwards watches on. Well, he wasn't able to do it with Luton, and they came up a few seasons ago and they went straight back down to the Championship. But this is a Wolves team that have been here for almost a decade in the Premier League. Had a Europa League run and a few top half finishes over the years, mostly under Nuno, who of course is now at West Ham, but it's never really gotten as high as that since Nuno left. That's a lovely little flick, but the flag's going to go up against the Rokadari there. Yeah. Again, it just looked, this play for here of the back three of Wolves, and it's just pinged through by Krejci. And Rokadari just doesn't get himself back onside in time to receive the ball and then lay it off, and offside flag goes up against one of two Wolves centre forwards today, Rokadari and Hee-Chan Hwang. Of course, Jørgen Strand Larsen on the bench after he started that FA Cup game last weekend. Oh, sloppy there from Newcastle. Malik Chow was there to mop it up, but that ball back the way was ready to be pounced upon by Hee-Chan Hwang. Here is Trippier to Malik Chow to Sven Botman. Hall back to Botman. Guimaraes. Short of 5 minutes gone, Newcastle having the better of the ball. Only had an early set piece that did try and threaten, but to no avail. And here's a nice ball down the left here. Whipped in deep towards Barnes and just about dealt with by the Wolves defence. I think it was Hugo Bueno again who got his body in the way. He has the ball now to Krejci. Back to Bueno. Krejci with the clearance into midfield, picked up by Joe Linton. Given away by Kieran Trippier. And the referee's actually going to pull it back for a foul, I think, on Trippier, which isn't a popular decision from the home crowd. It took him a while to get to the decision. And the free kick was given to the visitors. See it again down this left-hand side. Lovely ball. That was Hall that whipped it in deep. And Harvey Barnes was the one to target at the back post, and he just on that occasion couldn't get any contact to it. Again, those early crosses from Newcastle, certainly a target. They've done it a couple of times so far. They've got a set piece here in the Wolves half, taken short by Trippier. Little 1-2 in him and Tonali, who will try and ping it towards the area. Headed on and across and up and away by Mosquera in there. But again, Newcastle trying to use crosses to pin Wolves in. Oh, that was sloppy. Given away in the midfield. Now Hwang on the breakaway. He's got Mateus Mane, takes that option. Back to Hwang. Down the line to Hugo Bueno. Newcastle flood the bodies backwards. Bueno will recycle it back to Hwang. Not many options out there for Wolves as they look back to Krejci. Will go for the deep cross. Up and away by Hall. Better from Wolves though. And Mosquera going for the deep one. And that's also overhit that time. Goal kick. And no one really made a run into the box there for Wolves. That was a nice ball by Krejci. Lewis Hall made it well, and that was picked back up by Chichoa. He played it back to Mosquera, who whipped the ball in deep, and no one really made the run towards the ball. And you could see the look on the Wolves defender's face. Why did nobody make the run? Well, as I said, the one and only goal of the reverse fixture from Nick Voltemada on his debut for the club. Won it for Newcastle back in September. Actually, Newcastle have won each of the last 4 games against Wolves, home and away, and have conceded just 1 goal in that run, and that was a 2-1 win here at Molineux last season. Mario Lemina with the opener, and Fabian Schär and Harvey Barnes turned it around. Their 2 goals in the second half, but it's the only time Wolves have scored against Newcastle in the last 4 games in the Premier League. As that's going to be a late challenge by Hall. And a free kick to Wolves here, run about the halfway line. A little bit of a late challenge. See this again. Yeah, he's just late there. And it was Mosquera that's gone down. Yeah, the ball was gone, and Lewis Hall just catches the man a little late. And that's going to be a free kick and nothing more. Sam Barrett, of course, our referee today. A couple of early decisions to make, and I think the crowd are unhappy that Lewis Hall didn't get a yellow, but I think that was just a fair decision by the referee. Now, Paul Tierney is our VAR, by the way, as well. So, Andres over this one. Fizz towards that left-hand side, brought down by Joe Linton. Oh, dropped away from him as Krejci tried to win it back. Commits the foul on Joe Linton. And that Wolves free kick quickly turns into a Newcastle set piece. Just short of 10 minutes gone, goalless here at Molineux. Wolves 0, Newcastle 0. Game's got a little bit more stop-start in the last few minutes. A couple of free kicks, a couple of set pieces that just slowed the tempo of the game down. Newcastle showing a little bit of fight back by Wolves, but nothing too dangerous to worry Nick Pope. Neither goalkeeper have really been tested up to this point. Still very early doors though. Back to Lewis Hall. Sven Botman. Very congested central area. Wolves trying to cover as much space as they can and make Newcastle play those risky passes, but Trippier works it back to Chow. Nowhere really to go. Chow has to release it upfield. Ultimana trying to hold it up, but well marshalled And one back by Wolves. Cleanly, said the referee. Here is Hugo Bueno. Finding Huang. Hugging the touchline on the left-hand side as he works it back infield to Andre. Looking for an option, just goes for the little 1-2 with João Gomez. It comes back to Craigie. Down the line it goes to Hugo Bueno. Trying to find a way through here, Wolves. Bueno reverses back into midfield for Andre. Goes for that switch ball that's been on. Taken in nicely by Chachoa. Now João Gomez holding it up. Chachoa trying to go for the cross. It deflects off Joe Linton. Headed away by Tonali. Better from Wolves though. The crowd are feeling it. Getting more up for this now. Feeling their team starting to have a bit more possession, a bit more comfort. Santiago Bueno, Mosquera. Andre reverses to João Gomes. Albeit Mosquera has to go back to Jose Sa. They do need a bit of possession, Wolves. I think Newcastle having such a strong start with the ball just kind of isolated Wolves, made them a little bit to start on the back foot, and that's a nice ball by Andre. Hall wins the first header, but the second ball stolen away from him by João Gomes. And now Chachoa and a cross with a delivery cleared away by Sven Botman. This is better from Wolves, starting to turn the screw a little bit with their possession now. Flip ball over the top. Mateus Mane tried to get something to it, but well marshalled by Chow. And now trying to break away here, Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes looking to find the right option. Finds Harvey Barnes down the right hand side. He's got Trippier on the overlap. Goes to that option of Trippier. Works it back to Barnes. Barnes with a cross, and Voltemata got his head to it. Couldn't get it any further over. And wide for a goal kick. Decent play though. Lovely little link up between Barnes and Trippier down this right hand side, and then as the cutback comes from Trippier to Barnes, he whips it in first time, Harvey Barnes. Beautiful delivery. And Nick Voltemata just couldn't get as much contact as he wanted on that one. In the end, the goal kick comes, but we see this again. Wolves pinging that ball forward. Hall wins the header, but there's no one there to help him to win the second ball, and it's stolen away by João Gomes, who plays it into Chachoa, and it got them in a good position for Wolves. As Harvey Barnes couldn't take that one under control from that line pass by Trippier. But I think there are some early signs that Wolves can threaten Newcastle. And they can be a thorn in the Newcastle side this afternoon. Albeit they've only scored 15 goals this season, Wolves, in 21 games in the Premier League. They are by far the lowest scorers in the Premier League. The next lowest are Nottingham Forest, who've only scored 21 goals, which is just under 1 per game. So their output in front of goal has been very diminished, Wolves, but they have scored in each of their last 4 games in the Premier League. Lost just one of them, that was away at Anfield, but the other 3 they've scored and picked up at least a point out of those 3. Away to Everton, away to Man United, and at home to West Ham as well, where they won. So get on the score sheet gives them a massive boost. A free kick here for Newcastle, around about 15 minutes gone. Good intriguing battle so far between these two. Lewis Hall and Kieran Trippier, the 2 full-backs for Newcastle, over this set piece. Around about 27, 28 yards out. Right hand side of goal. Does benefit a crossing situation. But the left footer, and Lewis Hall, if he can get it with the left foot, he can swing it into the net. It's Hall who leaves it, it's Trippier who whips it in, and the header! Just over the bar by Voltemata. It's the second header he's had today, and that one a lot closer to goal than his first, but just over the crossbar. Behind goal kick. Yeah, really good play by Newcastle. Straight off the training ground, that one. Just couldn't get the finish on it underneath the crossbar, Nick Voltamata, but he's having some early heading practice in this one. Ugo Bueno reverses it back to Krejci. Into midfield comes Andre. Zips one forward over the top. Running was Matesh Mane. Is he going to keep it in? He does. He cuts it back. Arukadari was the target, but Nick Pope saw it all the way and was there to gather when he needed to be. Because that was a lovely ball by Andre. Matesh Mane stretching the Newcastle defence, and he gets it just as it's ready to cross the byline. Gets it at the byline, cuts it back across, and Tolu Arukadari was the one arriving. And nicely picked up by Nick Pope to spot that danger. Ball out to the left hand side now for Hall. Down the left channel. Whipped in by Gordon, and Tonali just caught it off balance there. Goes for a goal kick. He just doesn't catch it right, Sandro Tonali. Good cut back by Gordon, and yeah, and Tonali just might have come off a shin there in the way he connected with it. And that's why it went so far wide. Long kick by Jose Sa. Flicked on by Arukadari, but it's actually going to be a foul given against Arukadari for a foul on Sven Botman. Well, we talk about Newcastle's good record against Wolves, but their only win in the last, 7 games at Molineux has come in their last visit to Molineux. And that was that 2-1 comeback victory. They were winless in their previous 6 games at Molineux, dating back to when both teams met in the Championship back in 2017. So it's certainly not a happy hunting ground at all, but they don't lose often either away at Wolves. Just once in that 7 as well. Here's Arukadari. Oh, it's all come all the way through. Oh my goodness. Mascara was still going there, and that's some energy. Applauded by the crowd, and he's still chasing the ball down 50 yards from his position. That's got the crowd going again. And the crowd really into this, enjoying this so far from their team. As I said though, 5 of the last 7 meetings here at Molineux have ended in a draw, and 4 of those 5 have ended in a 1-1 draw between the sides. A 2-2 draw was the other result on in October 2023. Both sides both winning once in that 7 by a 2-1 scoreline. The last time Wolves beat Newcastle at home, Hee Chan Huang was on the double that day, set up by Raul Jimenez for both goals. Either side of a Jeff Hendrick equaliser, set up by Javier Manquillo. Just shows you how far Newcastle have come in 4.5 years, 4.5 years since that goal was scored for the Toon. Oh, lovely little flick by Bueno. The energy in this Wolves team at the minute, they're reflecting the crowd's energy. Here's Mane. Rolls it through. Bueno tried to link it up. He's battling to get the second ball, and Sandro Tonali goes down, winning a free kick. But Ugo Bueno incessant that it wasn't a foul. And the crowd backing their own player, as you would expect. Oh, he won the ball there. That to me looked like a clean challenge. Yeah, I don't think that was a foul. I can see why Ugo Bueno was frustrated. That's a good challenge, though, by Jochoa. Right for the throw. feel up for this today, Wolves, though. You can see it in the team. 21 minutes gone, still goalless. Still Newcastle with the majority of the possession, 65-35 in Newcastle's favour. All the shots for the visitors so far, but there is an energy about Wolves where they really feel like they can get themselves into this game, and they're on the breakaway again instantly. Caoimhan chops inside, vertical towards a Rockadari, who just couldn't get anything to it, and it rolls through for Nick Pope. But again, those vertical direct passes from Wolves cutting their way through Newcastle. It's just that last touch, that last pass that's not linking up for them, but other than that, it's positive in the build-up play. Very direct approach from Wolves, though. Newcastle try and go a bit direct, and doesn't quite work out that time. Voltamana couldn't hold it up, and Wolves striding through bodies, and Andre dug that one out of the ground, and Chichoa couldn't keep it in play, but that was some effort from Andre to dig it out there and get the pass forward to try and keep the attack alive. And see it again, that ball to Caoimhan, picks it up in a pocket of space again, just crossed the halfway line, chops back inside, and then plays a lovely through ball towards Tolu Rockadari, and just couldn't link it up. But the right idea, the right execution, just in the end a little bit heavy. You got to say, the energy inside Molineux, it does not reflect a team that is 15 points adrift of safety, rock bottom of the Premier League, and just one league win this season. It doesn't feel like that, which might be the fact that they've had an uptick in results as of recent, and maybe a few games ago it did feel like a real cauldron of angst and noise and real frustration. But I think this Wolves crowd are loyal to their team. You can certainly see that. Really loyal to their team. And, you know, I don't think there's many clubs that could say that they could be sitting in this position and still filling out the stands every week. And I think that is quite a credit to Wolves and the fan base, and the loyalty of that fan base here at Molineux. And Rob Edwards, I'm sure, sees positive signs in his team from this first half again. I genuinely do think they're doing the right things, Wolves, in and out of possession at the moment. Newcastle really haven't had major effort. I mean, they've had 3 shots, Newcastle, but none of them have been on target, so there's been little to no goal threat to this point. And I think it's almost as important for a relegation battling team to have a strong defence as it is to try and take your chances when they come for you in these games, and combine those, and it's a recipe for improvement of results, certainly. More than anything is that ball over the top from Newcastle. Overhits, goal kick. Yeah, Lewis Hall trying to find Anthony Gordon, but not on the same page there, and the ball was overhit anyway. Well, 25 minutes gone, and Rob Edwards, water bottle in hand, informing his centre forward Ichan Wang where to be and what to do. Going to give him some pointers. Do you think these 2 centre forwards for Wolves can be a real difference maker in this game? Rockadari and Ichan Wang, 2 really good players. That's a lovely ball by Jose Sa, but heavy touch from Hugo Bueno gives it away. They challenge to win it back, and they win it back fairly. And it's a flip ball over the top of Rockadari, trying to use his physicality, but well done by Sven Botman to outmuscle him. Although they can't keep it, Newcastle, a little bit wavered here. Here's Andre. You're going to pick out a pass. Krejci. Bueno. Krejci. Inside to Andre. Back to Krejci. Down the line it goes. And Chan Huang trying to hold it up, but it goes out of play. Off Huang, I think, and that's going to be a Newcastle throw. Well, the crowd here aren't silly. They know that maybe their team's had an uptick in results and looked a bit better in recent weeks. And the results have certainly looked a lot better, but they know they're still in an incredibly tough position. And if they are to in any way escape this drama, they've given themselves one hell of a catching up job to do. As Malik Chow wanted to throw there, he's not going to get it. It'll be a Wolves throw, but they've given themselves one hell of a job. I mean, as I said before the game, 15 points adrift of safety coming into today's games after Forest draw with Arsenal last night. Leeds winning again. West Ham picking up a victory this week. Burnley getting points. So the 4 teams above Wolves have all picked up points this weekend. And it's one of those where it feels like it's a weekend where Wolves need to pick up more points as well. Otherwise they will be losing ground on those above them rather than making it up. And that's the real issue. That most weeks you could probably bank on the teams above you in that relegation zone probably dropping points. And, you know, West Ham and Burnley, trips to Anfield and Spurs. Any normal week you would expect them to lose both of those games, but one of them won and one of them drew. So very interesting, kind of, and probably frustrating for Wolves, and the fact that the teams above them did pick up points. They know their job. Focus on their own game, try and pick up points of their own, and see where they end up after 38 games and whether it is possible. It will need to be one hell of a possibility, but I mean, I don't actually know what they need to average to get to that point, because I think, who knows, because Forest could end up on 27 points and could also end up on 40 points. It's that strange for Forest. West Ham, I have no idea what they're going to do, but they're still in the mix of safety, as are Burnley, so no one's really out of it, bar Wolves really at this moment. No one's saying Wolves are going to do anything but go down. But you never know. Flicked on here into the box, headed on by Huang. Overhead kick is caught into the hands of Nick Pope by Matesh Mane with the effort there. Some audacity to take that sort of effort. Flicked on and then guided by Huang, finding Mane with his back to goal. See this again. His back to goal, he chests it down, flicks it over his head, albeit seen all the way and caught by Nick Pope, but shows the confidence he's in to take an effort like that, facing away from goal. And he's the man who's sparked a lot of life into this Wolves team, the 18-year-old Matesh Mane. Scored in his last 2 Premier League games for Wolves. A 3-0 victory over West Ham and a 1-1 draw away at Everton. Seven goals this season for Wolves, albeit most of those for the youth side. Producing when he gets his Premier League appearances, certainly more recent weeks. But even if he isn't scoring, his performances are always up there. A real asset to this Wolves team from midfield, Matesh Mane. 30 minutes gone. Wolves 0, Newcastle 0. And with Newcastle on the ball here, Wolves again sitting a little deeper, sitting in, trying to completely overload what Newcastle are trying to do. Here's Barnes. Back inside as it's worked down the channel to Trippier. Trying to move around, keep the Wolves defence guessing Newcastle. Stay space. Barnes. Back inside Gordon. Now Hall tried the shots. Was blocked well, and it's a foot race between Rokodari and Sven Botman, and Rokodari picks it up. Chips it over the head of Joe Linton. And Chichoa linking it up here nicely. Huang. That's really good play by Wolves. Krejci finds Hugo Bueno. He's got Mateus Mane to his left. Here's Mane. Breaking down the left-hand side. Try to return the favour. Just overhit it. Mane there. Hugo Bueno couldn't link it up. But ultimately, really inspirational from Wolves. I mean, that out-of-possession play, when they looked to be played around by Newcastle, they never gave up space. They never gave up options. They never allowed an easy pass. And then they won it back well on a foot race. When Newcastle got impatient and tried to create a chance of their own. The definition of sitting deep and trying to hit on the counter-attack. So that's a bit of a cheat from Krejci. Yes, bundling Harvey Barnes over around the touchline. It will be a free kick to Newcastle. Excuse me. Kieran Trippier to take this free kick then for Newcastle. The rain starting to team its way down at Molineux. This free kick right on the edge of the right on the edge of the touchline, like right at the edge of the pitch on this right-hand side. It's Trippier over it. Sets it up right-footed. It's deep. It's punched away by Jose Sa. And Gordon couldn't take it down with the ferocity on it. It's nicked away beautifully there by João Gomes. Ooh, loose ball by Mosquera. He's giving it away in the middle. Here's Harvey Barnes. Couldn't link it up. Surrounded by gold shirts. And now Hugo Bueno. Making this a real tussle at the minute, Wolves. The longer it stays 0-0, the more energy this crowd will have, the more kind of belief they will have that they can go again and get more points. We need to stay concentrated, need to stay compact, need to stay stubborn. Can't give up easy options to Newcastle. Can't allow them to carve their way through yet, because they certainly can, and they've done it before against many an opponent. Newcastle. Well, as I said before, the reverse fixture wasn't an overall thumping by Newcastle on Wolves. It was the narrow 1-0 victory, and albeit still a victory, but ultimately the one goal made it a little bit tastier than it probably ultimately needed to be. On the day, Wolves had 8 shots to Newcastle's 16 and 3 shots on target, so it was a game that, albeit Wolves were dominated, but had their chances to try and steal something out of it. Just couldn't take them on that day. If they are to get themselves in the same position today, Wolves, they know they need to take their chances when they come. We've got a corner to defend here. Just around 10 minutes to go of the first half. Wolves 0, Newcastle 0. This is Newcastle's second corner of the afternoon. Trippier's corner, right-footed, up and away by Rokodari, who got into the box well and rose the highest out of any player in there. As rescued away for a throw by Huang. Taken quickly by Newcastle. Gordon. Down the left is Trippier now. Works it back to Guimaraes. Down the line it goes. Gordon's whip ball. Lewis Hall trying to get on the end of it. And it's looped up and over the crossbar. Goal kick. Well, it might be goalless here, but we have more Premier League football to come for you a little later this afternoon. Aston Villa taking on Everton at 4:30 is our big game to round off match day 22 here at LFS. And A huge game in what could see Aston Villa close the gap to the league leaders to just 4 points if they exclaim victory. And Everton side, who are right mid-table, they can jump up to 10th with a victory this afternoon. That is at 4:30. We'll have team news at 3:15 for that one. Here's Barnes. Trippier. Tonali back to Botman. Now Hall. Newcastle popping it around again, trying to find those gaps and those spaces to exploit. Not many shown by Wolves so far. Here is Gordon up against Chichoa. Gordon trying to force around the outside, and as he whipped the ball in, seen all the way by Jose Sa, who gathered it quite comfortably there, the Wolves goalkeeper. Long ball forward here from Jose Sa, but that one's too long for anybody in goal to chase, and Lewis Hall will just retrieve for Newcastle. At the back. Trippier, Chow, Guimaraes, switch to Lewis Hall. Lovely little drive through the middle by Gordon. Dropped to Hall again, and Barnes was going to receive it, but it's going to be a free kick to Wolves. Andre was fouled, and that's going to be a free kick to Wolves. See it here, Gordon does really well. Linking it up with Tonali, then Guimaraes, who held it up well, and then Andre stole it back off Guimaraes, and Voltemada left one in on Andre, and that's a free kick to Wolves. Well, another factor that has gone in the right direction for Wolves as of recent, albeit they are scoring goals. As I said, 4 successive games they've been able to score in now after just 15 goals all season, but they're also not conceding as much as well. Only 2 goals conceded in those last 3 games, and before that they conceded 39 in 18 games. That's an average of well over 2 per game, which is, a stark amount of conceding goals, considering as well how little they were scoring. It was, football suicide really, and you were giving up goals and not finding them at the other end. It was, you were beaten before you even started the game in a sense, and now they've solidified that defence a little bit, made them a little bit tighter, a little bit harder to beat and break down. And although here, Barnes with a little glimpse of a chance, punched away by Jose Sa. Chow trying to keep the pressure on. The press was there. Barnes though has it on the right hand side, chops inside now, looking for options. Lays it back out wide to Malik Chow, who stayed forward, and he will drift just away back into a more natural position towards Sven Botman. And the fact that they have been able to be more solid in recent games, Wolves, also accounts for the fact they're not the league's highest conceding team anymore. They've not conceded the most goals in the league anymore. West Ham have taken that crown for the moment of 44. Burnley with 42. Bournemouth are also close to that. They're on 40. They're just 1 behind Wolves. So there's a whole mix of teams starting to concede the goals. And Wolves are maybe slowly but surely moving themselves up that defensive table. Actually, they've been on a 4-game run where they conceded at least 2 goals in every game before this unbeaten run that they've been on. 4 against United, 2 against Arsenal, 2 against Brentford, 2 against Liverpool. Starting to see the fruits of their labour. You know, Rob Edwards, I think at one point during those games, I can't actually remember, what it was. It might have been the United game, and I think at that point he was saying, I've started to see an uptick in performances, better performances, the team fighting in games, and I think a credit to him, because they're starting to see that level show with the results that they're getting. But at the same time, as I said before, it's a long way back. Barnes across, cleared away. That was duly dealt with. They're under a little bit of pressure here, Wolves, at the minute. They're just having to ride this little storm that Newcastle are applying to Linton. Feint the ball in behind for Hall, who whips it deep, deflected, behind for the corner. Off Mosquera that time. You see Barnes' delivery a little earlier. It was punched away by Jose Sa. I don't know if that's it looks catchable, if I'm honest. I mean, I think Sa just punches to get it clear, but I think just catch that, takes the sting out of it, and settles your team back down again. It's those types of moments that make it a little bit more of a basketball game. Can really unsettle Wolves. They've got a corner to defend here. Right-footed delivery. It's deep. Headed down. And it's bounced back into the path of Jose Sa, who gathers. But for a split second there, it looked like Newcastle had ample opportunity to take the lead. But it was Jose Sa that came up trumps. Got a bit of a bounce to help him out, but it dropped at the last second, and he could gather. We'll see it again here. This bounces down in front of Joe Linton. He tried to swing a foot at it, and he just couldn't catch it. And it's caught by Jose Sa as it dropped down, but that was dangerous. Rokodari tried to pluck that one from the air. He almost did, and albeit Newcastle back in possession. Hall, well closed out by Andre with a challenge. Lovely little give and goes here by Wolves. Michel Gomes down the right hand side, whips it in, and Rokodari's in the middle, and his header was deflected behind for a corner. Frustrated with himself there, Tolu Rokodari, but good play again from Wolves, and it's Andre and João Gomes. I mean, they're the key for Wolves here in this midfield. 1-2 link-ups, the give and goes, beautiful football. So hard to defend, so hard to stop, and then João Gomes' delivery nicely in. Rokodari got something to it, deflected off Malik Chow, and behind for the Wolves corner. Corner delivered in towards Rokodari, cleared away at the front post, flipped back in, bouncing around, and the shot was right down the throat of the goalkeeper by Mosquera. You see it again, whipped in, up and away, front post by Newcastle, headed back in, beautifully headed in by, I think Krejci was that, got a header to it, and it dropped for Mosquera. He just swung at it right away. In the end, it's comfortably picked up by Nick Pope, but again, threat from Wolves there in that set piece. That's a lovely ball in behind, weighted and well shielded and defended by Wolves again, as Rokodari tried to hold it up, but no one there to hold it up to, or for, shall I say. Hugo Bueno on that right hand side for now. Rokodari does better this time at holding it up, and does have a layoff in João Gomes, who switches it to Choa. Now Mateus Mane, right on the death of half time here, Wolves trying to apply pressure. 1 added minutes before the half. Here's Mosquera, right the way through, well held up by Rokodari. João Gomes lays it out wide. Hugo Bueno on the right, got options in the middle if he can find one. Hugo Bueno wants to go himself, and that wasn't too far away, and he knows it. Again, great direct ball, well held by Rokodari. João Gomes in the pocket of space, laying it out wide to Hugo Bueno, and as Bueno chops onto his left, he has the strike, and it's switched across goal. And see it again from this angle, just over the crossbar, skimmed over the roof of the netting. goes behind for a goal kick, but Wolves certainly ending this half strong with a couple of chances. And as Nick Pope makes the kick, the half-time whistle goes, and a first half where neither side have found the net, but Wolves have shown promise defensively and an attack as well, holding Newcastle at bay and probably trying to threaten to take the lead themselves, Wolves. It has been a really intriguing close battle here at Molineux, and the league's bottom side are showing a lot more than they have in previous games, and this recent run is going well for them. They look stronger defensively, and Newcastle struggling to break them down. Half time, it's Wolves 0, Newcastle 0. Sure, one last kick. This is gonna be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this, and Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions, and there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal. Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me. That is absolutely unbelievable. Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. to Premier League Live half-time. It's Wolves 0, Newcastle 0 in the game at Molineux to kick off our double-header of Sunday action here in the Premier League. And so far so good for Wolves. They're looking strong at the moment against the Newcastle side, struggling to break this Wolves team down. At the moment, the Wolves side unbeaten in 3 in the Premier League, looking to make it 4. And they're halfway to doing that this afternoon. A little later on, though, we have another game of as much significant proportion. Aston Villa taking on Everton at 4:30 this afternoon. Aston Villa could close the gap to the league leaders to 4 points and jump to second with a victory today. Unai Emery's team. Talk before the game. Are they in a title race? Well, if they win today, it will be hard to argue against Aston Villa being in a title race, and they take on an Everton side who are as mid-table as they could be. They will be 10th with a victory today. Everton start the day 12th. That is 4:30 kickoff. We'll have team news from that game in about 15 minutes time. Looking forward to that one. And the Premier League concludes this weekend with the Battle of the South Coast as Brighton take on Bournemouth. That is tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Of course, the Champions League is back as well this midweek, so look forward to match day 7 of the Champions League. A lot to come in the next 2 match days of the Champions League to see who will get the top 8 spots and who will be going to the playoffs for the knockout stages, and we'll find all of that out within the next few weeks. But a recap on yesterday's results before we go to the second half at Molineux. Chelsea 2, Brentford 0 was a scoreline for Liam Senior. And his Chelsea side, of course, we watched the Manchester Derby yesterday. Leeds 1-0 victors over Fulham. That's another help to Leeds' great run at the minute in the Premier League. But also, of course, in their fight for survival, it was another more drop points for Liverpool at home. And Arne Slot not looking too happy at the moment. They're 12th unbeaten, Liverpool, but not convincingly unbeaten run, that one. But they are unbeaten in 12, and they drew with Burnley in that one. The only shot on target of that game for Burnley, albeit Sunderland 2-1 winners against Crystal Palace, despite going down by a goal, and Palace now winless in quite a few games. So they beaten by Sunderland. Spurs in a tough run. Thomas Frank now under pressure, according to reports today. And West Ham winning there 2-1 yesterday. And Forest holding the league leaders Arsenal to a draw. The league leaders who could have made it a 9-point gap at the top coming into today's games. They failed to do that. It's a 7-point gap at the start of the afternoon between them and Manchester City and Aston Villa. But Villa still to play. And of course, as I said, if Villa win today, they will actually close the gap on the league leaders rather than the league leaders extending the gap, which is quite a significant development in the Premier League title race. But again, with 16 games to go, it would be one storyline that I don't think any of us could have predicted, that Aston Villa could be in a title race with 16 games to go. I mean, absolutely crazy stuff. We're back out for the second half between Wolves and Newcastle, about to get underway, and Rob Edwards knows his team are only halfway to getting a result, but they've shown some really good signs, both in defence and in attack in that first half. So it's not going to be plain sailing for Newcastle to come out in this second period and win the game. They're going to have to work for it, find a way past the resilient Wolves side in recent weeks. And funnily enough, Wolves have won their last 2 home games in all comps. 6-1 win against Shrewsbury in the FA Cup and a 3-0 victory against West Ham in the Premier League. Not going to want to give up that winning run too easily, Wolves, because it is their longest winning run, I think, of the season to this point. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. That'd be greatly appreciated. And we thank you all for joining us here this afternoon for our first of 2 Premier League games here in LFS this afternoon. So far, not been goals, but there's been drama and action so far in this one at Molineux. Of course, after yesterday's Manchester Derby, excited beyond belief, really. I think a lot of the talk yesterday, and I think I said it in my commentary of the game, I think it was the best I'd seen Man United play in such a long time. I think a lot of the consensus was similar to that. It was an unbelievable performance from United yesterday, and City were slightly below their usual levels, and they paid the price for that, really. And a fantastic 3 points for United. That top 4 race is hotting up as well. Liverpool dropping points, United getting a big victory. as well. Chelsea winning, Brentford losing, which drops them out a little bit. And Newcastle want to insert themselves into that conversation. They win today, Newcastle. They would be above United, up to 5th, and just a point outside the top 4 where Liverpool sit. So it is well within the realms of possibility that Newcastle can be very much in that top 4 race with a victory this afternoon. So certainly a lot of movement at the top and the bottom of the table. That's exactly what we like to see. As Joe Linton picked off the ball there. Matesh Mane just recycles it back to Krejci and into the midfield for Andre in space. Trying to target his man in João Gomez, but picked up by Gordon, cut out by Anthony Gordon. As Guimaraes finding Trippier down this right-hand side. Try to go down the line and not on the same page as Harvey Barnes, who wanted the inside pass. Miscommunication there down that right flank, and it's gone for a Wolves throw, which they take quickly. And Matesh Mane, well challenged there, the referee said, and actually he's going to give the free kick the opposite way as Trippier's down holding his head. I think he's going to have to get some treatment here, Kieran Trippier. Look, completely accidental from Matesh Mane, who's over making sure that the player is okay in Trippier. We'll have to see a replay if we can. I don't know if they'll show us a replay just yet. There was no further action from VAR on this scenario as to any sort of violent conduct or anything like that. Just looked accidental from Matesh Mane, one of those type of collisions that is a painful one, but completely accidental. Oh, that is painful. I've got to say, Kieran Trippier is lucky that he didn't come up with more damage there. And, cut in the forehead, you can see just above his right eye. There, Kieran Trippier, which they're patching at the moment. Andy Burton in the chat. Welcome in, Andy. Thanks very much for joining us again. Wolves have improved the last few weeks, and Newcastle fans are always worried about their defence problems they're having at the moment. Well, I think today we've seen more evidence of how Wolves have improved. I think we've seen, certainly in that first half, we've seen an identity from Wolves that I think had been missing, really, because you know, when a team is really lost for that identity of what they really want to be, what they really want to do, it can falter and they can completely lose all sense of what the football club is, what the idea is, coming into training every day, what actually do they want to achieve. And I think this relegation fight and the position they find themselves in has given them purpose. It's given them belief. It's given them a reason to fight every game. And albeit you might not, you shouldn't need that to play Premier League football. But sometimes results can just go against you, and then you get in this route of, yeah, but do we believe we're going to win? Do we believe this going to? And it just lacks that energy. And I think today, certainly, I think the first time I've watched Wolves in a few weeks, and I've really seen this afternoon their ability to work hard as a team, out of possession, really kind of rush to the ball, chase down men, not give Newcastle any time and space, really shield the 18-yard box, anything and everything that's coming into that area, get rid of it, get it out, deal with it right away. There's that urgency about Wolves out of possession, which I think for a team that's so far adrift at the minute is quite refreshing, quite unusual, because usually they've been beaten so many times, they're so used to it, and they just have really nothing left to give. And by this point, they're just faltering to make sure that they get any sort of points, anything positive to make out of this season, albeit preparing for next season in the Championship. By the way, Kieran Trippier is okay. And we get back underway again with that Newcastle free kick, which is just about kept in by Lewis Hall on the rebound. Anthony Gordon. And he says, hi to, did you get the new chair yet? I didn't yet. I'm waiting until I see the right one. I think there's too many options. Any recommendations, that would be great, but right now I haven't a clue. And this chair that I have, it's done me so well over the last few years, but they don't sell it anymore, which is annoying. Here's good play down the right here by Wolves. Deep ball delivered in, and the header is over the crossbar. And it was Mosquera who's got forward a number of times today for Wolves from that centre-back position. And he drifts forward here into a space. It's good play by João Gomez. He lays it out wide. The ball by João Gomez, apologies, delivered in. And it's come off the head of Mosquera and over the top, but Rokadari was in there too. Mosquera's got forward a number of times today for Wolves. Ooh, that clearance there was a little bit scrambly from Krejci. Ultimately, Chachoa sees it out for a Wolves throw, but ultimately a little bit nervy there from Krejci. And he says, I'm a Villa fan. Around the West Midlands, we work best with our backs against the wall with nothing to lose. I think a lot of teams can be like that. And I like to see a team that feels the kind of the world's against us mentality, the kind of whole, no one believes in us, no one believes we can get points, no one believes we're good enough to be in this league. Go out there and prove it. That whole prove yourself kind of thing when no one else believes you. It's that drive that teams haven't. You talk about it a lot with professional footballers. You know, no one believed in me. I wanted to prove them wrong, and every single day they want to prove people wrong and the doubters wrong. And I think it's some sort of special energy. And listen, the Wolves players are not stupid. They're not. The Wolves fans are not stupid. They know the position that the club is in. They know that it's almost a certainty that they will be relegated this season. But they pick up some points, keep themselves moving. You never know. Other teams might not be able to always pick up points. Excuse me. Apologies. Excuse me there. Teams might not always be able to pick up points like the teams above them have this weekend. You never know. But again, I say that with, tongue-in-cheek really, because we know the likelihood is that Wolves will be in the Championship next season. And maybe sometimes a team needs a reset like that, because over the last few years, Wolves really haven't done much. No offence to them, they've been in the Premier League and that's a great thing for a lot of teams, but they were 16th last season. They were 14th the season before. Season before that, they were 13th. So they've been slowly but surely over the last few seasons just dropping in the table. And no offence, but they probably could have seen this coming. You know, and that's the question. That's the bit that gets me. When you realise that 4 seasons in a row, your league position's decreased, and then you get rid of your best player from last season. How do you not expect this to turn sour pretty quickly and turn a little bit out of hand pretty quickly? Botman. Hall. Down the left-hand side comes Gordon. Back to Lewis Hall again. Lots of gold shirts in the way. Guimaraes trying to go for the switch ball. Bueno was dragged out. Pressure on Barnes. Has to go back to Trippier. Barnes. Trippier. Guimaraes. Again, good football from Wolves out of possession. I said they've looked more aggressive today, but at times they've also known when to stand off, when to sit deep, and that's a lovely little challenge by Krejci. He steps in perfectly here. He's got no one really ahead of him as he feeds it out to Matheus Mane, but overhits it. It was a good interception by Ladislav Krejci, but after that, really didn't have much creativity there to ultimately use. And Matheus Mane, wasn't a hard target to hit there. It was one of those ones he had to make that pass. It was a pass that he should be making. But just as I was saying about Wolves sitting off and then being aggressive in the right moments to intercept, it was perfect timing for Krejci to step in and make that challenge. Lewis Hall down the left to Anthony Gordon. Gordon going for the deep cross. It's into the area and off the head of Voltamata. It's picked up by Hugo Bueno. He's got space to burst down this left-hand side if he can. He's got a good distance, but still in his own half. Has to work it back, though, to Santiago Bueno, and then Krejci back to Jose Sa in the Wolves' goal. Header won by Hall. Nice challenge. Taken in by Gordon, who's surrounded by three. Stolen away from him. Chachoa! Couldn't work it out wide. Nice little tackle there. Will be a Newcastle throw as Hall was taken out, but yeah, getting themselves in the mix here, Wolves again. Wolves are a yo-yo side, unfortunately. Get into the Prem, have a solid first season, then it's downhill from there. As players get sold, just a matter of time, but they will be back. I think, really, Wolves had an opportunity, and have had an opportunity for a number of years. They are a club that's in profit. They're doing well. They're building their way as a team, and they have real solid foundations in the league, but they just haven't used it. You know, a number of mid-table finishes, that's your opportunity to go, we're mid-table, we're in the right position, we're keeping ourselves solidly in the league, let's push on, let's push for Europe. But they just haven't done that. They haven't gone for the calibre of player that will push them towards European football. And they've always wanted to go for the younger, the kind of, the ones where they can sell for big money in a number of years. And I think, albeit it's a great kind of, what's the word? Tactic? Not really. A great, what's the word? Not scenario, not system. Oh my god, I've gone blank. Strategy, that's the word. It's a great strategy to have to try and be consistent and staying in the division and staying up. But then when you get to that point, you then need to be take a bit more of a risk and go, do we want to push for Europe? But if you don't, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards, basically. If you're not progressing, you're regressing, basically. And I think that's where Wolves have been caught. And I think a number of teams, I think West Ham are in this too. They haven't really progressed on from winning that European trophy. They've regressed massively. They're in this position because they thought, yeah, there's three teams worse than us in the league, and they've been caught out this season going, no, there's not. Clearly not. When you're in the bottom three, Nottingham Forest are a bit like this too. I think there are teams in the league that think, yeah, the players we have will get through. There's teams that are worse than us over 38 games, and probably there is in the end, but Sunderland and Leeds have shown this season that it's not going to be that easy. That it's just not going to be as simple as the three that come up is going back down again. And that's great for the league. That's great for the championship as well, because it means that the championship isn't just a stagnant league where 24 teams are just, three of them are swapping out every season and they're coming right back down again. Hall, deep ball into the area. Comfortably gathered by Jose Sa. And that'll be the big question for Wolves as well this summer. If they do very likely get relegated, what happens to those players that they have recruited for the Premier League that wanted Premier League football? A lot of them will go by the wayside. A lot of them will obviously go to different clubs, and again faltering this opportunity of having a decent young squad that could do something, but they've just not recruited well enough to help them to stay in the league. Tonali going down, referee says play on. Voltamata got his head to it, couldn't again get that direction on it, and I think he was offside anyway. Free kick to Wolves. As we hit the hour mark inside Molineux, it remains goalless, but again, Newcastle have struggled. They haven't had a shot on target yet. Newcastle. Voltamata's had 3 headers today, and none of them have really posed a threat to Wolves' goal. I mean, I've got to say, Jose Sa's had one hell of a comfortable afternoon so far. The Wolves goalkeeper. They've got options off the bench if they want to use them, Newcastle. That's a ball in behind. It's a little tricky to deal with. Nick Pope was quick and cleared it away. Mane taking a more central role, it seems, in this second half. Here he is again, facing his own goal. Held off a challenge. On the turn, breaks away. Mane. Down the right-hand side comes João Gomes. On the overlap is Chichoa. Chichoa with the early cross. Bodies in there. Away by Trippier. Brought down by Bueno. Now Gomez. Krejci. Wide to Hugo Bueno. Wolves on the move here. Bueno's deep ball. Rokodari was the target, but headed away by Malik Chow. Back again come Wolves. No way out for Newcastle in the moment. Here's Chichoa. Deep ball by Mosquera. Took a deflection. Luckily he's able to retrieve possession, but that could have been awkward and all the way back to the Wolves goalkeeper. Again, they're showing glimpses, Wolves, of taking this game to Newcastle. You just need that big chance, that one opportunity in front of goal, which they need to take. Because it will come. As I said, it's about taking that chance. Here is Anthony Gordon. Gordon. Joe Linton back to Gordon. Again, good step in by Chichoa there, but he wasn't able to keep possession. Oh, pressure by Rokodari. Good step across there by Sven Botman. Or sorry, Malik Chow, apologies. Trippier. Now Barnes. Barnes, deep ball into the area. Joe Linton was the target. Headed behind by Chichoa for a corner. This game's opening up. You can see it, you can feel it. Beautiful ball by Bruno Guimaraes. Absolutely scintillating ball. Joe Linton couldn't have asked for a better chance. Chichoa, the much smaller man, comes up with the header. Corner to Newcastle. On the right hand side. Lots of height in there in navy blue. Ball whipped in. Way at the near post. You can have all the height, but if you don't get it anywhere near them, it's a tough one. Tonali whipped back in. Header is on and behind and into the hands of Jose South, the head of Sven Botman, who I think was offside anyway. He was. See this again. Joe Linton, oh my goodness. Yeah, Chichoa does well. Great defending, gets around the back of the man and makes sure that any sort of contact he has is deflected away from goal. It's incredulous defending. But he knows what a big chance that would have been. And now, after straight up a hat-trick at home last week, Tolu Rokodari's coming off, and the man who scored that hat-trick, Jorgen Strand Larsen, is coming on. He'll be hoping he can make the difference for Wolves in this one. He scored 6 goals this season for Wolves, but 5 of those 6 goals have come in cup competitions. Just the 1 league goal this season for Jorgen Strand Larsen. And lovely link up between the lines here by Wolves. They're energised by that substitution. Bueno, Andre. Here is João Gomes. Out to the left hand side comes Hugo Bueno. Back to João Gomes. Andre. Hwang lays it off now. Mane trying to feed it in behind Hall as a real challenge comes in, but Hall still got the ball. And he still got it as he was taken down there. Free kick. Fouled by João Gomes. Well, Wolves have just made their sub. Newcastle are going to respond with a triple substitution. Lewis Miley, Anthony Elanga and Johan Visa are all coming on. And replacing, coming off for them, Sandro Tonali, replaced by Lewis Miley. Anthony Alanga replaces Nick Voltemada. No, well, Johan Visa will replace Nick Voltemada. And Anthony Alanga is on as well for Anthony Gordon. So Gordon, Tonali and Voltemada off. Visa, Alanga and Miley on for Newcastle. And that ball's gone out of play there from Lewis Miley, his first involvement in the game. That's got them a throw in for Wolves down the left. Well, 7 shots for Newcastle, none on target, 12 touches in the opposition box and 65% possession. They've had the shots, but they just haven't been anywhere near able to test Jose Sa. Here's Mosquera, might go for this long throw here. Got Strand Larsen to target in the middle, amongst others. Ball flicked on. Joe Linton there to head it away from goal. Visa trying to help out, but nicely stolen back by Mosquera, who whips it in and absolutely thrashed through the back of that ball and behind for a goal kick. The Wolves fans call Larsen the Team U Haaland. Well, last season he wasn't bad. Just this season he hasn't hit the kind of the heights that he did last year. I think he was an absolute dream to have in your fantasy team last year, Jorgen Larsen. He was. I had him in my fantasy team and he done me wonders last year. 14 Premier League goals last season, 4 assists for Jorgen Larsen. Quite ironically, he didn't have a cup goal to his name last year. All of his goals came in the Premier League, and now all but one of his goals that he scored out of 6 this season have been in cup competitions. Gimenez. Flip ball over the top, down the right hand side to Alanga, who took a heavy first touch, but does keep it in play nicely. The crowd, the travelling Newcastle support, liking that. Alanga deep cross, headed behind by Chachoa for a corner. Again, they're trying to turn the screw, Newcastle. They're trying to really get Wolves in awkward positions. So far, they've come up with all the answers to the tricky questions that Newcastle have tried to pose. Corner on the left, whipped in by Trippier with the right foot. Up and away by Strand Larsen. I think there was a foul anyway on Jose Sa. So a free kick to Wolves. Yeah, Joe Linton just shoves the goalkeeper down. Well, this is a stat that you would make quite interesting reading at this point of the game. It's 70 minutes gone, 20 to go. Both teams have scored in all 10 Premier League meetings between the sides at Molineux. The most played exact fixture, never to see a team keep a clean sheet in the competition. So, in all previous 10 games that Wolves and Newcastle have played at Molineux, both teams have scored, which meant neither team have got a clean sheet in this fixture at Molineux in the Premier League. The longest without that for any fixture in the competition's history, which is quite an intriguing little stat, but it makes it more interesting for the final 20 minutes that never before has this game ended 0-0 in the Premier League between these two at Molineux, and never before has only one team scored in this fixture in the Premier League between these two at Molineux. So we do expect some late drama if history is to continue and repeat itself. I agree with you, Andy. Andy, yes, history does repeat itself, but there's always that one time that it doesn't. And I agree with you, but I'm trying to say it to get some goals. Not that I don't believe. I do believe. There's going to be some goals in this one. Fingers crossed. I'm not really worried. I mean, if it ends in a 0-0 draw, it's a fantastic result for Wolves. Still another point in the right direction. Here's Bruno Guimaraes. Out to the right-hand side comes Trippier. Lots of bodies in the box. 6 players around there for Newcastle. Here's Miley. Back to Trippier. Lifts it into the area. Barnes was closest, but headed away by Mosquera. Picked back up by Guimaraes. Trying to feint it in behind, but Mosquera was quick. And as he tried to clear it away, it bounces off Guimaraes. Doesn't get it away. And the ball by Bruno Guimaraes under a bit of a rush. Couldn't find its target. Out of play. By the way, Wolves have just made a change. John Arias has come on. He's replaced Joao Gomez. So another player that's performed this season for Wolves, albeit the best of a bad bunch, ultimately. The Colombian John Arias. Goal and an assist in that FA Cup game, and a goal in that 3-0 win over West Ham. As only 2 goals of the season have come in these last 2 games at Molineux, so can he make it 3 in a row? Chip ball over the top. Alanga. Felt he was offside there, the Wolves players, but flag stayed down. Visa, Miley, Alanga. Looking for Visa. Nice step in there by Krejci. And Hugo Bueno trying to clear it up the line. Stays in play, but Strand Larsen was held off for a moment. And Botman can get that back to Nick Pope. Hall. Botman. And now Malik Chow. Well, Newcastle have won their last 3 Premier League games, the longest winning run since a run of 5 in a row between March and April of last season. Meanwhile, the Magpies are looking to win their first 3 league games in a calendar year for the first time since 1996. 30 years ago. It's the last time they won their first 3 league games of a calendar year. So we see this again, a bit of clash of heads between Hugo Bueno and Anthony Alanga. Bueno stayed down holding his head. It was just a clash between the two. It's no foul, nothing dangerous, as Alanga's feeling the pain of it too, but he's on his feet. A bit of a painful one, and ultimately Hugo Bueno back to his feet. A little bit dazed, wanted a foul. He's not going to get one though. There's a clash ahead as it wasn't a foul. Well, looks like they're both okay to continue. So corner to Newcastle. Just over 15 to go. You can feel the tension building around Molineux. How close they are to more points in the Premier League. Newcastle growing in urgency, growing in more desperation to try and find a winning goal. Right-footed delivery by Trippier. Up into the air. The flick on is right up into the air as Andre gets his head to it and clears it. And Hugo Bueno a little bit dazed still, but he does make the clearance, which Joe Linton takes for the Visa takes from the throw in quickly to Joe Linton. Now Hall, Visa, Johan Visa to the back post, up and away by Krejci, only as far as Barnes. He's trying to manoeuvre an option. Finds Alanga. Now Guimaraes, little back heel. Finds Harvey Barnes on the turn. Whips a ball in. That's some ball. No one throwing it themselves out of Visa. Tried at the last second, but just a little too late. Great ball in by Harvey Barnes. Again, it's fabulous play by Bruno Guimaraes to spot the run of Barnes, to play it beautifully, and wonderful ball across the 6-yard box. I mean, that is gagging for someone to put into the net. And they just couldn't get on the end of it there, Newcastle. None of their players in the mix. Again, no shots on target to this point for Newcastle. That is one of two things. Either Newcastle have been nowhere near it in the final third, or Wolves have just done a number on them. And I think it's a combination of both, really. Because I think Wolves have been fantastic defensively today. Here's a move here into the box. Matthias Mane that bounced away from him. And Malik Chow was there to step in and clear it, but that was a glimmer of hope for Wolves. We see it from the long throw. Taken in by Jørgen Strand-Larsen. Beautiful little touch. Laid it into Matthias Mane. See it here. Takes the touch. It bounces off him. And it bounces away from him. Big opportunity. And now here come Newcastle. Barnes on the breakaway. Challenged. But the ball will drop to Lewis Smiley. I think the referee's actually going to stop it for a foul. And it's going to be a yellow card as well from Sam Barrett. See it here. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's a yellow card worthy challenge. I think Mane's a little bit late, but he's got a clear shot at getting to the ball there. I think he might get something to it. Or it's actually not Mane, it's Yerson Mosquera. Looked like he handed it out to Mane there, the referee. But it is Mosquera that gets the yellow. Free kick. 24, maybe more yards out. See the replay, see the wide angle of it again. It's Trippier and Hall over it once more. This one more of a opportunity to go directly from this free kick to shoot. It's from distance. Jose Sa trying to set up his wall. And this will be one hell of a way to get your first shot on target. Nail-biting moments for those travelling Newcastle fans. Watching their team in the rain try and beat off a rigid and stubborn Wolves team at the bottom of the table. From 30 yards, Trippier and Hall are over it. Wall set up. Jose Sa's primed and ready to try and stop anything that comes in his way. Hall and Trippier over this for Newcastle United. It's Kieran Trippier who hits it wide. And oh my goodness, for a split second it looked like it was going in. I think he thought it. I think Eddie Howe thought it. I think the crowd thought it. But it just hit the side netting. That's curled back and Jose Sa full stretch. It clipped the side netting. Long clearance by Jose Sa. Unable to link it up in the middle. Look, tired legs it seems for Wolves. They've not tired there. Was Chachoa, who's done fabulously down that right hand side all day. They've got a little loose in the middle here, Wolves. This is where Newcastle will need to try and punish them. Ball whipped in from Alanka. It's a little high. It's very high, actually. And Hall keeps it in play. Lovely little first touch, but Chachoa's got the better of him. And now Mosquera lays it back to Chachoa. Beautiful take in by John Arias. Now Andre switching it out to the left. Hugo Bueno's got the ball now. Yeah, Wolves have had a few shots, Andy, today. 5 shots, 2 on target. So they've tested Nick Pope a few times. Here's Arias. Early crossing towards Strand-Larsen. Up and away by Malik Chow. And out for the Wolves throw. Yeah, nice idea from John Arias. It was so nice that he even confused his own centre forward as to what was happening there. Lovely from Hugo Bueno. Leaves his man for dead and Trippier Bueno with a deep cross. Again, no one in there. Hall just gets rid, though. Puts it behind for the corner, which will ignite this crowd again. And with less than 10 minutes to go, they're very well in the mix here, Wolves. Again, Bueno does really, really well. Beats past Trippier, who doesn't even bother trying to get back for him. Lewis Miley covers over that space and whips the early ball in. And Lewis Hall doesn't know what's behind him, doesn't know what's coming around him. And he puts it out behind for the corner. As Wolves get ready to set something up from this set piece. Hugo Bueno to take. Left-footed delivery. Up and away by Johan Visa. And then ultimately just left too much on. It didn't really get much into the mix there. Really, Hugo Bueno just definitely lifted it in towards the area. It was a pretty simple ball for Newcastle to deal with. Wolves, I think they're going to make another substitution very shortly. And Rodrigo Gomes, I think, is going to be the man coming on in a moment. Getting some treatment, some instructions on the bench as he gets ready. Long throw here by Mosquera. Flicked on by Mane. Not finding its targets as Guimaraes not given the time to clear it. Blocked by Strand Larsen, but it's gone behind for a goal kick anyway to Newcastle. Doing their best at the minute, Wolves. They're trying their hardest to keep Newcastle honest. These latter stages, pressing them into tricky positions. And it's going to be a free kick here to Newcastle. Alanga brought down by Krejci. A reminder for you, Aston Villa taking on Everton as a 4:30 kickoff from the Premier League in our second game of the day at Villa Park. Aston Villa with a chance to go within 4 points of the league leaders, Arsenal. Everton looking to jump up into the top half with a victory. That game is at Villa Park at 4:30. Joe Linton laid off by Barnes towards Visa. He tried to return the favour, but ball goes right the way through and Wolves can scramble it away. Hall picks it back up and he thought he challenged them well there, Jørgen Strand Larsen, pleading with the referee, but it is a foul. Looked like he just clipped Lewis Hall. Yeah, he tried his best there, Jørgen Strand Larsen, but he just clipped him. He did. It's a foul. Gotta say, he's come on and got himself about, Jørgen Strand Larsen. Six minutes of normal time to go. Kieran Trippier over this set piece. Right-footed, lifted towards the box, bounced down. Guimaraes on the turn, punched away. Joe Linton right into the hands of Jose Sa. And now he's unleashed a runner in Matej Mane. Can Wolves head on the brick here? Mane's took on a man who had him well covered, and it's going to be a free kick to Newcastle. Lewis Hall again winning the free kick and unsettling this home crowd who are unhappy, but Jose Sa with two big saves. Again, Trippier with the ball in. Bounces down on the half turn. Guimaraes, great little shot. Well saved by Sa. And then it bounces back out into the path of Joe Linton, who heads it straight at Sa, who makes another decent save to grab it this time, but without a shot on target and within a split of less than 5 seconds, they've 2 shots on target and are well in the mix of trying to win the game there. And Jose Sa, who's been quiet all day, has had very little to do, comes alive when he needs to and helps out his team as best as he can. Ichan Wang, by the way, has been taken off. Well, ball in by Barnes. Cleared away by Wolves. Showed a little bit too much space there. Krejci with a clearance. Ichan Wang looked a little frustrated coming off. Rodrigo Gomes is on in his place, but didn't look too happy about coming off there, Ichan Wang. I gotta say, a little bit deflated. 4 minutes to go. Bruno Guimaraes to take this corner for Newcastle. Left-hand side. Right-footed. Up and into the air and headed over the top by Joe Linton. Goal kick. The number of chances Joe Linton's had in this second half, and he's not been able to take them. Number of headers that he's not been able to take past Jose Sa. Yeah, just glanced off the top of his head. Another Joe Linton header in a dangerous area. It ultimately doesn't end up in a dangerous position. Here come Newcastle again. Alanga jostling. And it's going to be offside against Johan Visa. And Chachoa there really strong in his defending. Well, this is the time where I think both teams would both love to win it, but at the same time, back to that old adage, if you can't win it, don't lose it. You're still picking up a point, and albeit you might see it as a disappointing result, but a point is a point. And in Wolves' position, they can't afford to be too greedy with any sort of points they want to grab. If they can get a point here, it's another step in the right direction. And Manchester City up next is going to be one hell of a tough task away at the Etihad next Saturday for Newcastle. They're back in Champions League action. They host PSV Eindhoven, who thumped Liverpool at Anfield a few months ago. That is on Wednesday night for Newcastle, followed by a hosting of Aston Villa next Sunday at 2 o'clock before a trip to PSG and then the trip to Liverpool. So a tough end to January for Newcastle after this one. Now on the breakaway, here comes Jørgen Strand Larsen. Bursting away, and he's brought down. And Sven Botman with a challenge and a yellow card. Free kick to Wolves. Yeah, Mane again. Rolls it into a nice position. Driving through the middle. Sven Botman with just a lazy challenge, if I'm honest. And a free kick and a yellow card. It's first of the season for Sven Botman. Just over a minute to go of the 90. Free kick here for Wolves. This is where they need. If Wolves are really going to do something, they need set pieces to be their saviour. They've got height and delivery quality in there, and that one's a poor one. Again, it's not great delivery. Arias back to Mane. Andre tried to whip it in, blocked well. Bounces its way though towards Arias. Now Mitesh Mane, lots of bodies in the box here for Wolves. They can find one. Mane's deep ball. Krejci across and into the hands of Nick Pope. Couldn't get enough on it to get it towards his teammates there, Ladislav Krejci. But a nice idea, nice opportunity. Nice attempt, but ultimately not enough to test Nick Pope seriously there. Well, 90 minutes are going to be about up. How long will be added on at the end of this? And there's 6 minutes, so there's more than enough time. Barnes switching it, taken in by Trippier. Goes for the cross, deep towards Joe Linton, heads it back down. Hall takes the touch, took a touch too many, and now Wolves can burst away. It's Mosquera who's run forward all afternoon from centre back. He rolls it into Jørgen Strand Larsen, who tried to get a shot off, blocked by Chow behind for the corner. Well, that is one way to counter-attack. And they've done it well at times today, Wolves. They did it well in that first half, that direct counter-attacking football, and that's what got them on the front foot. That's what got them forward and creating chances. And again, it's Mosquera stepping in at the edge of his area, charging forward, lays it into a centre forward, and Jørgen Strand Larsen, who has a shot to win a corner. He was well blocked by Malik Chow, but They have us another set-piece chance here, Wolves. 5 minutes of the 6 to go. Ugo Bueno to take. Left-footed delivery into the area. First contact was a Newcastle head. And last contact was a Newcastle head. Corner to Wolves. Yeah, much better cross in by Ugo Bueno this time. Joe Linton got his head to it, and the only head to it in there. But it pinned it in amongst the Newcastle players and the mix of players and really tested Newcastle in getting it away, and Joe Linton did well. But another set piece to come from the opposite side this time. The crowd behind the goal of a gold persuasion. Hope that Wolves can find that magic moment. They've got the ponchos on. Whipped in. A little lower this time. Caoimhan was there, able to clear it away. It's gone all the way back to Jose Sa. It's a little bit too tentative from Wolves. Sa pumps it up the field. Second ball stolen away from John Arias, and now Visa just a little heavy towards Alanka, and that's fabulous defending there from Ugo Bueno to put it out for a Wolves throw off Anthony Alanga. I think Andre's struggling a little bit here. I think cramp. They've put so much into this Wolves today, I gotta say. Their next couple, as I said, they've Man City away next week, which is going to be an unbelievable tough task. They've Bournemouth at home, Chelsea at home, and then a trip to Forest to start February. So some winnable games in there, but I mean, a trip to Manchester City and that game against Chelsea will be two incredibly tough games amongst the rest, and you never know, but this will be one hell of a result if they can pick up 3 points. But a point wouldn't be an awful result either. Into the 4th minute of 6 added. Free kick for Wolves right about the halfway line. Pumped forward. He slipped as he took it though. Sven Botman can clear. Only as far as Mane. It's Wolves on the front foot here. Ernst Strand Larsen. Mane surrounded by a number, and he, rather than trying to win something or play and lay it off, he tried to run through a man and gives it away. And now Alanga down the left, cuts it back. Caoimhan bundled over, wanted a penalty, not going to get one. Referee waved it away. Both sides trying to win set pieces at the moment. Hall's won it back. Trippier now got a bit frantic now inside Molineux. Here's Joe Linton, rolls it into Caoimhan on the spin. Works it across the area. A little bit of a deflection. Takes it towards Alanga. Alanga's cross blocked by the first man. And Mosquera trying to battle. Wanted a foul. Goes down. Not going to get a foul. That's going to be a foul. Andre right into the back of Caoimhan. And that's going to get him a yellow card as well. He just shoved Bruno Guimaraes to the ground. I mean, no attempt to win the ball whatsoever there. That's the 6th yellow card of the season for Andre. Just one more minute of additional time left. One more set piece possibly for Newcastle. Trippier zips it towards the area. Up and away by Mosquera. And Mane tried to steal it away from Lewis Hall, but well shielded. Trippier whips it in again. Up and away by Krejci. Dropped for Guimaraes, who couldn't hit the targets. And that is one hell of an opportunity. Krejci tried to clear it. Or Ugo Bueno, sorry, tried to clear it. He just dropped it into the path of Guimaraes and swung at goal. And what an opportunity to score what would have been a winner. Sa, maybe the last kick of the game here. It's the 6 minutes approach. And there it is. The final whistle goes. It's a point in the right direction for Wolves, but for both teams, they probably had chances to win it and get all 3 points. It's an end to the winning run for Newcastle to start the year, but it is another point for them. They could have been jumping up to 5th place. They stay in 8th, just above. They've just got into the mix between Brentford and Sunderland, their local rivals, and they are well in the battle for European football, but they could have been leading that charge against the rest. Ultimately, Wolves played a tricky customer today, held them to without a shot on target probably to the last 10 minutes of the game. So they really give it a good go today, Wolves defensively, and held Newcastle for such a long time. Ultimately, neither side could find the net, and that's the first time in this fixture at Molineux in the Premier League that that's happened. There's always a first time for anything, and ultimately, it's a big point for Wolves, but surely 2 points drop for Newcastle in their fight for European football. Final score, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Newcastle United 0. Confirmation of that result there. And we'll show you in our later game what that means for the table, because Wolves, albeit stay at rock bottom, they're now just 6 points adrift of Burnley. They're 9 points adrift of West Ham, and still 14 points adrift of safety, which is quite a distance, but as I said, a step in the right direction. So that is one game down, and we've another one to come. Aston Villa taking on Everton. Oh, that was a little awkward. That graphic's not working for me at the moment. That was strange. Aston Villa against Everton is a 4:30 kickoff from Villa Park. We'll have that one live for you very shortly, about a half an hour's time in that one. But that is it from us. Thank you very much for giving us your company this afternoon. It's been great to spend this one with you, albeit neither side found the net on the day, but an intriguing battle. And Wolves giving it a good fight. 4 unbeaten in the league, 5 in all comps. Maybe this is possible. Who knows?